Hi, everybody. It is Carolyn Doran Ballard, and welcome back for week two. Kicking back with Ballard's Bowling Academy. I am here with the guys this week. Hi, Jeffrey. Hi, EJ.
Hey, Carolyn.
Hello.
Still hanging in there during this pandemic?
Yeah, hanging in there. Is getting the list is running a little short of things to do, but we're hanging in there.
Well, before we get started today, the first thing I want to start with is let's recap some news that's happened in the bowling world. We want to say that we feel very sorry for all the junior gold qualifiers for 2020. I know they were looking forward to their trip in July with their family, their friends. I know my daughter Alyssa is very disappointed that she won't get to see everyone. But then again, at the light at the end of the tunnel is USBC did move the women's and the Open Championship. And I'm going to check. The Open Championship will now run September 12th to November 21st. And the Women's Championship will be running from September 19th to October 10th. Now, I think both of you were getting ready to bowl the Open. EJ, you were going to go with our group, correct?
Yes, yeah, we're actually due to go early April, but we got postponed a lot, like a lot of other people. I myself am going to kind of keep an eye on the situation as things go. I'm one of the high risk people for the virus that is going around, so I'm going to monitor the situation and keep in touch with my captain there and see how the situation progresses and see if it's safe enough and feasible for me to go this year. If not, well, I'll just keep practicing and wait till next year.
How about you, Jeffrey? When were you supposed to bowl the Open Championships?
We were going the middle of April, and so far we've got some good text messages going on to see if we're gonna bowl again. I've only got like 3 or 4 dates to be able to bowl this year. But if I don't get to bowl this year, we'll bowl next year. We're just kind of flipping the coin, and if you can bowl, great. If not, oh well.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice that they are allowing us just to move it over to 2021, depending how it happens. So that was a good call on USBC's position there. Now, with our guest this week, we are going to talk with Paull about his 4-ball arsenal that he would be using if attending the Open Championships or even if he were to go out on tour. But we had chose the UFO. We talked a little bit about the new Roto-Grip ball. We talked a little bit about the Storm Axiom. We all had that in our arsenal. And Jeffrey, I think there was one other new Roto-Grip ball we all drilled up before we were not allowed in the bowling center. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think we all got the privilege to drill the Roto-Grip nuclear cell. Definitely one of my favorites. I put my favorite pin down layout on it. And I could not tell you how more excited I am about this bowling ball. It gets through the front really well, still has a very clean back end on it. And what I'm very surprised about it is I can actually use it from playing straight and going all the way left, and kind of looping the lane. And it doesn't really slow down like sometimes when I do drill some of the pin down ASIMs. We just drilled yours pin down, I think, Carolyn, correct?
We didn't, which is quite different for me because with the ASIMs, they tend to roll a little bit too soon for me, but this cover is a little bit cleaner for an asymmetrical. And yes, pin down. And I really compared it. I got to use it in the Texas Queens tournament before we stopped bowling. And when my emerald was actually going a little bit too long, I could go to the nuclear cell, gave me a little bit more of that mid lane pickup there, and it definitely still continued. And Jeffrey, I agree with you. I actually could move a little left, and when I got that ball to the right, it still didn't quit. EJ, I know you got to throw yours also before we were on the pandemic watch.
Yes, and then much the same note as Jeffrey and yourself. I don't typically drill a lot of ASIMs. They tend to see the lane a little too soon. I actually went pinned down with mine as well, which is unusual. And I'm thoroughly impressed with it so far. I'm able to get left with it, loop the lane a little bit, still have the continuation through the pins that I like to see. In my arsenal, I actually play it a little bit more off of my high road. So when that ball is not quite enough, like much the same situation, it goes a little too far, then I will jump up to nuclear cell, get a little bigger engine, still have that nice clean cover, and still have enough recovery down lane.
Interesting analogy there to the high road, but of course, every bowl is compared to the high road, right, guys? All right, well, let's move on. We're going to have a great guest today. We're very excited about this. Paull Fleming. Paull, are you there?
I'm here, Carolyn. Thanks for inviting me today. Hi,
All
everybody.
right, so we have Paull Fleming, who is my personal friend for well over 25 years. Also, PBA regional champion. He is a past PBA Rookie of the Year. He is a tour player from the 90s and 2000s on the regular tour, now getting ready for the PBA 50 tour. He's also a coach and does some real estate. So, Paull, you have a lot going on right now.
Well, I really have nothing going on right now due to the pandemic, but yes,
Right.
It's quite a challenge sometimes to get everything in. So my definite passions these days is coaching and bowling. Once I quit the regular tour, I basically, from age 40 to 50, I did not really compete in the individual stuff. I did a lot of team bowling, mainly to make up for my lack of bowling, so I could lean on my younger cohorts to pick me up. So once I turned 50, the gears kind of changed a little bit, kind of showed me how much I was out of bowling shape. So,
okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about that. So, when you did compete in the 90s and the early 2000s, how did you prepare for the tour?
well, those who know me, I'm a practice-holic. So at times I probably, with competition, probably bowled about 100 games a week.
Wow.
So I did a lot of gym work. I used my legs. Everybody has known me for my knee bend. So now my knee bend is not quite what it used to be because I can't get down quite as far. I think age has something to do with that, but I don't want to admit to that.
I'm with you on that one. So now that you are that, well, 50 is the new 40, right? So that's okay. So now that you will be competing on the PBA 50, what changes have you made in your preparation compared to what you did in the past?
Well, I definitely do not practice as much, mainly because of physical. I got some injuries, especially with my knees, my wrist. I kind of prepare more with a lot more quality shots. Not that I didn't practice that in the past, but my practice sessions are usually maybe 3 to 4 games. I mainly shoot spares. So my philosophy is, if you become an excellent spare shooter and you post your shots on your spares, it's going to help your first shot. It doesn't work the other way. If you practice nothing but first shots, it's not going to help your spares.
That is so true. And I know in a lot of the clinics that you participated in, we have focused a lot on spare shooting because the kids tend to want to throw more of the strikes and don't give the spares as much time as they should. But you did mention that you had a little soreness in the wrist. Jeffrey, I know both of you worked a little bit with your grip.
Yeah, we worked with his grip, and as you mentioned, he had some soreness in the wrist. We went with a couple of different pitch changes, a smaller span, a little bit longer span, some different switch grips, and even a different pair of grips in there. So, Paull, we kind of went on one that we liked. Did we go with the longer span, or which one did we go with?
Well, we ended up going with the longer span. For those out there, my span is not long, but it's longer than what I had. So yes. I also do vacuum grips. I use the Turbo Classic Pros, and I went with a little bit smaller hole than you normally drill for the vacuum grips. It's all feel. So that's one thing people have to realize. Bowling's all feel. So what feels good to somebody else may not feel good to you. So for me, I am very particular with my feel of how the ball feels, as Jeffrey knows. So it's one of those things that, as Jeffrey's job is dealing with me, very picky individual, It's okay to be picky because that's what you like. So you have to, for those out there, you have to portray that to the pro shop and, hey, this is what I like. And Jeffrey, he may not like it, but he will help you out with that and make sure you get a good fit.
Well, I can state that you do have your own bottle of plug at the pro shop, so we're all good to go. You can keep changing pitches all you want, which moves us into the next category, coaching. You've always been an education person. Coaching has become a passion by all means. Tell us a little bit about the relationship between the coach, the bowler, and the pro shop, and how important each one is.
Well, to me, it's very important. I get a lot of questions from my students. They seem to be a little more open with me instead of going to Jeffrey, and they'll ask me questions. Hey, this hurts. I say, well, let's go to the pro shop and get Jeffrey's opinion. So I'm very well versed. I spent 15 years in the pro shop, but that was many years ago. So I defer my expertise to the experts in the bowling equipment, which is Jeffrey and EJ, because they keep up to date with everything. So they're in they know now, right. I know 20 years ago. So it's one of those things are the same, but they're different.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's very important. Your hand should never hurt. That's one of the reasons, I went to Jeffrey and EJ both to figure out, well, my hand's not supposed to hurt, especially if I'm bowling all these games. Well, you got to be at the top of your game to beat these guys. They may be older, but they're still the greats of the game. I bowl against Pete Weber, Norm Duke, Walter Ray Williams Jr., Parker Bone. It was tough to beat them when I did compete on the regular tour. Well, it's still tough to beat them on the PBA 50 tour. So you definitely you don't want to give your opponent any edge. Your hand definitely does not need to hurt.
Excellent. That's great advice, especially when you were talking about your using the vacuum grips and how you make them a little bit smaller. And I think that is something that, especially with the youth bowlers we see, if they don't bowl for a while, like now, everyone's going to be on a hiatus here. If you're sticking your finger all the way down into the grips past your, knuckle there, it's time to change the grips out. And we may see that just a little bit because of this time off, but you definitely want the grips to fit a little bit where they're not too loose, because what happens? You then tend to want to have to hold it or grab onto it, and that could cause some soreness.
Correct.
Yeah. So EJ, what do you see down there when you're giving lessons and when Paul's down there, and with our Specto? Any common factors?
Well, that was something, Paul, that I was going to ask, is that I see a lot of people, their fit is, again, education, like you're saying. That might be all they know. Their feel, like you're very particular about everything, how you like your feel, is I've actually stolen some thumb holes from you because I put my hand in your ball and it's felt really good. So it's, we just want to make sure that, again, we don't want any pain. We don't want any soreness. You want to make sure everything fits, that I like everything on my equipment to fit super snug, because I don't want to have to squeeze or to hold on. So, and like with Paul's equipment, especially years ago when you didn't use grips, the edges on your finger holes were like razor blades because they're so sharp. So again, it's making sure everybody, find what's comfortable for you, find what your little particular portions of your game and how you like to fit. And then, of course, that's our job here, is to accommodate that and make sure that it feels correct for each individual bowler.
Paul, what is one of the common occurrences, though, that you see when you're giving lessons? I know we've talked about it, and I know what would be at the top of my list. But what are two of the most common occurrences you see, no matter whether it's a youth bowler or an adult, when you are giving lessons or you're attending one of the clinics?
Well, one of the biggest things is spare shooting. It's kind of what we talked about before with my own personal game. Everybody thinks you got to strike, and yes, you do in certain situations, but you definitely have to pick up your spares. So if everybody fills their frames So you got 10 frames or a possible 12. If everybody marked in every frame, you're going to shoot 180 to plus 200. So it's one of those things. If everybody's goal was to fill the frames, they would be in contention in probably every tournament they bowled.
Yeah, well said on that one.
So it's one of those things, whether you're a youth or the adults, do not push that reset button when you practice.
Yeah, and that was me. That was this guy when we bowled league together. I was fortunate enough to be on a team with you. I would be the guy in practice. I always hit the reset button, and I remember all our conversations about that. And since then, I've made an effort to perfect my spare game or make it better than what it was. So it is definitely vital to fill those frames.
Well, one of the things we were talking about, obviously, we were all getting ready to bowl some events, before we were all put into our homes for a little bit. But Paul, we did a little bit of an arsenal evaluation of what we would take to the women's or the Opens championship. The guys were going to the Open. So we kind of want to ask you a little bit about if you were getting ready to go bowl the Open, which you said you were this year, what 4 bowls would be in your bag?
Well, after listening to your guys' podcast last week, I haven't had the opportunity to throw an Axiom or a Pitch Purple. So I have had the opportunity to throw a UFO, which is a phenomenal bowling ball. That would be at the top of my list. The Axiom, I have one to be drilled. So as soon as this gets over, that'll be another ball of choice. I have a Phase 3, which I love the Phase 3, and then a Pitch Purple as my spare ball.
Right.
Yep. So it seems like, again, like we were talking about last week, is all out of the 3 of us, we had 3 of the same ball. We all had a UFO, we had an Axiom, and then, of course, Jeffrey and I had a Pitch Purple or a Phase 2. So it seems like there's a lot of different styles of the game just between us talking, but there's definitely a lot of similarities that speak to the versatility of the equipment that we're trying to use.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Paul, I think we've talked about it. What is one of the ways, we talk about this all the time. What is one way in which we can make those bowling balls do something different? We preach this all the time.
Well, the biggest thing is surface. Out of the bowling balls that we mentioned, none of them I used right out of the box. I like to put my own surface on there because you cannot duplicate the factory surface. So especially the Phase 3. The Phase 3 comes shinier.
Right.
Well, to me, it gives me an over-under reaction. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things that I always put some surface on my bowling balls, whether it be 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. I rarely use any polish.
That's interesting because I think if you really look at both tours, PWBA and the PBA tour, I don't recall any of the bowl reps saying, hey, throw that right out of the box. I mean, it is true though. I mean, it sounds kind of funny because on TV, sometimes the bowl probably does at times look a little more like it has shine. But if you're actually there, you realize that it has at least 2,000 or 3,000 on it. It's not right out of the box, and I can't blow dry my hair in it. So that is such a great point. I mean, well, and you're laughing, right? You too, Jeffrey. You could blow dry your hair in the bowling ball too, right?
Oh yeah.
But Jeffrey, you see a lot of that, especially because of the high school teams that we have practicing up at Watauga. We've done a lot with the Abralon pads, making them packages so they know how to use them.
Yes, we've actually gotten to where we made some packages for them on different grits, either 500, 1,000, and 2,000, to help them learn that sometimes that bowling ball that you have, you can take it to 500, 1,000, or 2,000, and you actually make that bowling ball into about 3 different bowling balls or so, just using the pads. And the best thing about it is, and the kids have learned, that one surface for one bowler is not the same for the next bowler because of speed or rev rate or things like that. So the best thing is these kids are learning more and more throughout the high school program to take that more information into their college teams as they do get ready for college bowling.
Oh, that's a great point. Continuous learning. We heard that with Lane Thompson last week about everything that he learned. at the camps and clinics he attended and just hanging out in the pro shop, you learn a lot of lingo. And that's what he said. He said he feels like he's a little bit ahead, especially of where he was 3 years ago. Well, we've talked about bowling balls. We're ready for the arsenal, the surface changes. But Paul, I think there's something else many bowlers overlook as they travel the country, whether it be bowling tournaments, bowling in college, and that is having a good pair of bowling shoes.
Oh, I totally agree. With Dexter shoes out there, that's what I use, the SST 9s. The interchangeable soles is invaluable. I personally carry a 6, 7, 8, 9, and a 10 slide sole. My main combination is a number 9 slide sole and I believe it's an H6 heel. So
okay.
It's one of those that I have multiple number 9s, just in case you walk on the concourse, you step in something. Right. I have a replacement that if that happens, it's like it never happened. So I'm totally prepared in all situations, just in case the approaches are going to be different. Sometimes I encounter tacky approaches. Well, then I will use a number 10 slide sole, just so I can slide. As I've gotten older, I like to slide. EJ, he likes to stop. I'd maybe be able to bowl maybe a game or two, and then my knee would hurt, and I'd have to quit with his slide combination that he uses. But everybody's individual. That's the purpose of these slides, these shoes with interchangeable. There's a slide sole that works for you. So it's very, very important to work with your local pro shop to help understand what works for you. It's, the manufacturers come out with on Dexter a certain slide combination that's a standard. Me, that's too tacky. So that doesn't work for me. So you have to buy aftermarket and find the combination that works for you. Then you're going to use it 90% of the time. You're rarely ever going to change it from bowling center to bowling center. But be prepared that you have a slide sole on either side so you can make those adjustments if needed. So slide soles are just as important. Shoes are just as important as bowling balls.
Yeah, and of course, just goes with the shoes as well. With all this high performance equipment we have with bowling balls, there is maintenance required for the shoes as well. So, I mean, just like you were saying, Paul, is you have a brand new slide sole just in case something happens. We can get out there and step in that patch of water, or, we can get out there and our slide sole, we've gone through it because using it 90% of the time, we're going to use that slide sole and go through it. So it's important to have that backup for your combinations as well.
Well, and if I can add with the slide soles are just like bowling balls. So when you first get them, there's nothing like a new ball performance. So same thing with slide soles. Slide soles either get slicker, so you start sliding more, or actually with some of I think it's the 9, the 10 combination, they actually start sticking more.
Oh, okay. Good point.
So it's one of those that it's important to get new slide soles also. So just in case that happens, again, you're prepared. Yeah. So I'm a big component of preparation is the key to success.
Yes.
That's perfect. That's a great way to say that. And that's in each level. Making sure you have your thumbs, extra grips, your bowling balls are ready, your shoes are ready. I mean, especially if you're going to bowl tournaments, is being prepared.
Oh,
making
absolutely.
sure you have exactly. So before we move on, when you were talking about, I want to reiterate some of the facts that you said that I think are really important, especially for some of the younger bowlers that are watching. But, practice is all about the quality. So again, you could have a 30-minute practice of just spares and make that a good, productive day instead of going and just throwing shot after shot after shot for 2 hours, because you tend to pick up some bad habits. And I also think, and this is going to lead me into my story, is bowling as many tournaments as you can while you're waiting to get to your next event, correct?
Oh, absolutely. That is one of the things I like to do to prepare for tour.
Mm-hmm.
So I use a lot of, whether there be local tournaments, some bigger tournaments, as preparation for the tour, because there is no substitute for competition.
Okay, so I want to know the last time, Paul, you bowled in the morning in Dallas, Fort Worth with someone, got in a car, and drove to Edmond, Oklahoma to bowl at Boulevard Bowl for a tournament, and we made the squad time. So when is the last time you did that, Paul? Because you were so passionate, so passionate about bowling.
Well, I could definitely say it was probably over 20 years ago. And I was not the driver in the car, because I have been told I kind of drive like a grandma at times. So, but I was probably a little bit more, I was grabbing onto the seat because Carolyn was driving. And we made it to Oklahoma City in pretty good time.
Yeah, we'll say record time. We won't say a number, but we'll just say record time. But again, those are some of the funny things. You know, when we were getting ready for tour, I was also on the women's tour at the same time. So you were trying to bowl as much as you could, and we tried, whether the tournament was in Oklahoma or Dallas, we tried to hit them all. So some good times there. But great information about the quality, being prepared both with, you know, bowling balls and your shoes, getting coaching. So let's just target on that one more time before we go. Jeffrey, past college champion. So Wichita State, great coaches. How important was the coaching for you to take you to the next level after you left college?
Well, a couple of things some people don't know. I was fortunate enough to go to their bowling camps before I actually went to college. So I got to know the coaches pretty well from the get-go there. But the coaching that you can get in college is insurmountable. I learned from the coaches at Wichita State, Mark Lewis, Gordon Vatican, and we also had a lot of different educational sessions. A couple from like when we had our clinic with Rick Benoit and Bull U. He actually came to Wichita and did a couple of clinics there. So the thing is, what I love the most about the college bowling aspect and the coaches is that if they don't know or they want to get more information about it, they bring in the best expert to help explain what's going on and to help make everybody in the program, not just me, but everybody on the team, a lot better.
That's awesome information. And you're right. You know, you never stop learning. Again, I said this about Paul. He's always been a student of the game. I mean, always learning, always keeping up, and with what is up to date. And as we know, this industry is always changing. There's always something new on the market or something with the lane patterns that you're learning. So that's a great suggestion. You know, try to get to know your coach a little bit better in the fact of, like you mentioned, Paul, there are coaches that are better at the mental game than at the physical game. That doesn't make you, good or bad. It's just everybody has their forte. But again, we're always learning.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to hit on what everybody's talking about with coaching. Everybody thinks that professionals, they don't need coaching. Well, to compete at a high level, you need different type of coaching, whether it be ball motion, the mental game, all these aspects. I get coaching to this day. Right. One of my coach that I see is Mike Jazz now of Lane 81. It's no longer Lane 81, but I'm in contact with him over the break, chatting about my game. So it's so important at all levels to get coaching. I've been contacted on the break. People didn't know the bowling centers were closed on
right.
how to get coaching. Well, the person that contacted me was a beginner.
Oh, interesting.
So they weren't really up to date on the bowling centers. So it doesn't matter. It's so important at the beginning level, I think, that get started the right way. It's so important. It's going to make bowling so much more enjoyable. And, at all levels, coaching is so important.
Excellent. That's some great advice. And I course, we've been passionate about coaching. Again, we mentioned we have Specto now down at City View. See EJ for all that, right, EJ? How's it
Yes,
been
of
going?
course.
Listen, you, yes, of course. No, but we've had a lot of people come down and inquire about Specto, and I think it gives a different perspective, right?
Yes, yes, yeah. And it's been just and getting in the coaching aspect of that as well. Specto just opens up so many doors that you can see so many things with your ball motion and what you're actually doing to the ball and how that translates to reaction. So, and it's so much data, and it's if you have anybody that has any issues interpreting that data, come see me when this is all up and running again. We'll have Specto available, and we'll talk you through it, get you out there, and throw some shots. But definitely, any type of data or any information you can get about your game is vital and help in the long run.
I agree. So, all right, Paul. Before we let you go, we're going to talk a little fun. All right. Okay. So, what is your favorite football team?
Favorite football team, Texas Rangers.
Okay, well, I am a girl, but I don't think the Texas Rangers are a football team. The guys can verify that for me, I believe. Correct?
You would be correct. I am not a big football follower. I do watch the Super Bowl.
Okay, so that's
mainly for the commercials.
Okay, and all right. So who was your favorite male Pro Bowler while you were growing up or first went out on tour? And who is your favorite bowler in present day?
Well, I'm actually going to give 3.
Okay.
So my favorite bowler growing up was Marshall Holman.
All right.
Then when I went to college, I was kind of in awe of another collegiate bowler.
Okay.
So that was Rick Stillsmith.
Ah, yes. Tricky Ricky.
But I'm also going to add to that one before I get to my last one. I also had the pleasure of rooming with Rick Stillsmith when I was out on tour. So, and then to this day, we remain very good friends. So it kind of worked out really well. He is a very technical guy as well. So it was good that I'm a practice-holic, and so was Rick. So it kind of worked out really well. If we didn't make the cut, we went to the lanes and practiced.
Right.
So, and he is now the head coach of Wichita State, which kind of helped me in the aspect of I had a good set of eyes to help me with my game. And since I do coaching also, we just kind of reciprocated and watched each other and tried to make each other better. So
that's awesome. That's great advice there, and for people who are going out on tour. Excellent.
Yeah. And then my last one, it may surprise everybody. Our games are so similar.
Okay.
So Jason Belmonte.
Oh.
For the current.
Yes, you know what? Now that you mention that, look, who doesn't think Jason Belmonte is a great bowler? I mean, I don't think you'd find anybody who doesn't think he is definitely someone to watch. But I really do like how you brought up the fact of when you roomed with someone on tour, you had a lot of similarities. You liked to practice, work at the game, educate yourself. And for any young bowler that will be looking to go out on tour when things get back to normal, that's important to make sure that you have some common interests so that you can both grow your game together.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's very important if you do travel with somebody out there that you enjoy being with them.
Right.
You know, spending time, just like you said, similarities. To add another story to that, we bowled nationals together, and we had several good runs to try to take over the lead in doubles. Okay. And it was probably at least, I'd probably say about 5 times we were in contention going into the last game. And unfortunately, we didn't make the right choices with the transition and didn't come through. But we had some good finishes.
Yeah, that's definitely a top doubles team by far. But Paul, thanks for all the information. You're always a wealth of knowledge. We're proud to have you as a part of the Ballard's Bowling Academy family. And stay safe out there. And hopefully we'll see you up at Watauga soon.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me. And you guys all be safe.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, Paul.
So to wrap that little segment up, I mean, that's just a wealth of knowledge. I mean, there's a lot of information there to take away from that. And one of our aspects of keeping in touch with Paul and vice versa is you can always visit our Facebook page and ask any of us any questions, and we'll make sure we get back to you. Guys, got any more tidbits on that?
Well, it's just with Paul again. It's just awesome. He's definitely an asset to anybody that he encounters. I mean, just my experiences with him and what he's done to my game personally. It's just been awesome over the years to see my game evolve and have his input and just help me through all of that. And it's just, anytime you get coaching, especially, it is a process. So, you got to tear some things down to build it back up, to break some of those habits, but stay with it.
Excellent. That's a great point. All right. So before we head out, let's have some fun. I gave you guys a homework assignment, didn't I?
You did.
Yes. I haven't done that in so long.
Oh my gosh. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about PBA team bowling, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So as everyone knows, I am the manager of the Kingpins PBA team. We had a phenomenal run last year. I've loved my team every year. I have to admit, last year was exceptionally good. I really did think we were going to take it all the way to the championship match, but I did keep 3 players. So currently on the Kingpins, I have PDW, which is Pete Weber. I have Marshall Kent, and I have Kyle Sherman. So this year I'll get to draft 2 players. So I am looking for some suggestions. I'd love to hear everyone's feedback as to what I should be doing for my team. So I gave you a little homework, and who wants to speak up first?
Well, you go for it, Jeffrey. All right.
All right. Well, obviously I've been looking at it and I saw my name on the list. So I have to pick myself, right?
I think we have a sign here. I don't know where my little sign girl is, Alyssa Ballard, but I think I was going to go with Team Jeffrey and Team EJ.
Yes.
I did.
Well, based on the homework here and watching the shows the last couple of years, they do say a lefty is good. He's a little further down on the list. But I would actually choose Matt McNeil. I think he's a great add to your team.
Oh, Matt, yes. I'm taking notes. Okay, go ahead.
And then I think my next one, because they gel well and, they have the popular YouTube channel, let's go with Brad Miller.
Oh, I like it. And 2 great guys, too. Yep. Oh, I like your choices there. They could definitely be added to my list. Notice how I'm not giving you any inclination yet of where I'm going. EJ?
Well, I do want to have you submit that paperwork for a captain's pick. I would be more than happy to take that spot. So it would just be we'll get the shop covered. We'll make it work. But one of the names on the list, so scrolling through, trying to find some names that of somebody that's more versatile, and a name that I came across that I like is Andres Gomez.
Ooh, I love Andres. Yeah.
So that way, somebody that's a little more versatile, can play different parts of the lane, and then I'm always one to support the home team. So the second pick I have is going to be Anthony Lavery.
Aha.
So I think something.
Okay.
Get some youth on that team and get you in a little different part of the lane. So maybe if they break the ball down to the right, he can jump way left and help you out a little bit.
I'm a little concerned that you said get a little youth on that team. So you're just talking about the team, not the coach or the manager, right?
It just depends on how secure my job is.
Hey, I will tell you though, Jeffrey, you bring up a great point. So let's chat just a little bit about this PBA league. It is currently still taking place in July. It's supposed to be, I believe, around July 25th-ish. So we have some time. The draft itself, we have been told, is going to be virtual, which I do think is the smart thing to do. I have started to make my list. I do consult with my two cohorts in crime, PDW and Marshall Kent. Both of them are my sounding board, as a matter of fact. All three of us have a lot in common. So we talk openly with each other. We do have a list going. There are two names here that I can say were not currently on our list that, because you suggested, will now be added to the list. But I am not saying which two, and I am not going to say who is on my list. But I will say that there were two that were not on the radar that have now possibly come into play. You are right, Jeffrey. The left does tend to play well up in the Portland, Maine area. Of course, I think once both teams get lined up, by the time you're at the semifinal, the final match, everybody really gets into the groove. If anybody has watched the PBA, the left lane tends to be the trouble lane because you can't get over as far. The right lane tends to hold up a little bit better. So having a left-hander is not a bad idea. So this will be very interesting. Now, you guys have obviously watched the team competition, correct? And may I ask what your favorite team is? There is a right answer to this.
I think that right answer is going to have to be the Kingpins.
Yeah, exactly. Very good, EJ.
Well,
Jeffrey.
See, the thing is, you pick Carolyn's team, which is a phenomenal pick. I can't blame you for it, but we gotta give Dell some love. The Motown muscle.
Oh,
gotta give some love.
Okay, we can do that. I think it's a split decision, and we will discuss this next week. A friendly team competition between Team Dell or Team Baldo and Team CDB. So we'll see where we go with that. That's fantastic. All right, we'll talk a little bit more about that next week. But before we close, we want to do our giveaway, correct?
Yes, we want to do our giveaway. So we are going to post this next week. We want everybody to comment with a bowling picture. The best bowling picture that we choose will win a $25 gift certificate to Ballard Bowling Academy.
Excellent. And we're hoping you're going to be able to use that here in the next few months, as we know things are ever changing during this pandemic. But just look on our Facebook page, Ballard's Bowling Academy, and ballardsbowlingacademy.com. We have all of our information on there. We will, once things get back to normal, we will always be posting what our hours are, or it will be strictly by appointment only, depending on how things are changing. But we are monitoring the situation. We want everyone to stay safe out there, and join us next week when we're going to have a surprise guest who will be bringing a friend. So check back next week. We look forward to spending some time with you. Thank you.